Hey guys, it's Rob with BAC Group. Thank you for tuning in again. I got a really special episode for you guys today. Going to be interviewing one of the competition shooters that I met at a local range. He was doing some testing that day on a 308, if I remember correctly. And yeah, we just kind of kept in contact with his journey shooting and some of the stuff that he competed in. And I just thought it'd be really good to speak with him on how to get involved in 2-gun, 3-gun, the tactical games, Mammoth Sniper Challenge, stuff like that. So this is going to be something you definitely want to take some notes on.
I don't know about that, but all good stuff.
And this is Kevin.
No, thanks, Robbie. It's been a while, dude. We've been trying to do this for like a year.
Yeah,
so
we have been.
It's, schedules finally aligned. The stars finally aligned. So I'm happy to be here and just talk all things, within my knowledge, all things that are competition, both locally, regionally, and nationally. So good stuff.
Yeah, I'm very appreciative of you squeezing me in your busy schedule. So
it's all good. Ain't that busy.
So I know you've been shooting a while. How'd you get into competition shooting, so to say?
I'm a born and bred hunter. My entire life, growing up in the woods of Western PA. So I was always a shooter from a hunting perspective. And it wasn't until the pandemic that I started shooting competitively. So I was leading up to the pandemic. I did a lot of Spartan races, did a lot of OCR, a lot of running, mountain running. I really used to love mountain running. I can't really do it as much anymore. And was training to be, to run a full season in 2020 for Spartan in the mountain series. Damn. And so when the pandemic hit, they shut it all down. In 1 week, they shut down the entire season. I'm like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? And I'm like, I don't even know what to do with myself, because I was like, training 6-7 days a week, and now you're like, what am I training for? And a couple of the guys I know that run the pros, run the elite class in Spartan, were like, hey, we're going to flip over and do this tactical games thing. It's fairly new, but it looks pretty cool. Some of them are military backgrounds, or like, it takes us back a little bit to our roots. And so I did a little bit of research on it, and I found one. There's one in PA. There's one up in Shooter's Gauntlet, which is way the hell up in northeastern PA. And I messaged them, like, yeah, this is too good to be true. They're not going to let civilians into this. There's no way. So I reached out to the VP at the time, and she's like, yeah, everybody's welcome. LEO, civilians, active and former duty military. Damn. Do a bit of research. It was founded by a former Delta operator, and what he wanted to do was bring a place where people could train and test themselves using firearms and fitness. And so I went up to Shooter's Gauntlet, had no idea what to expect. Like I had my EDCs, a Glock 23 with some slight improvements, and a pre-band Olympic arms, carry handle with an optic mount on the front of it. I had no idea what to expect. Yeah. The tactical games was still growing at the time, still getting pretty new, and I showed up there, and man, I got my ass kicked. Like completely got my ass kicked, and but I was hooked. I was like, oh, I got to do this. Like this is it. I got to do this more. So I kind of sunsetted the OCR thing. They still struggle through the pandemic, and that was the only event I did in 2020 was Shooter's Gauntlet. But then the shooting bug hit. It's like, okay, I got to get better. I got to gain weight. I got to learn how to shoot. Like, I mean, again, I was just a freaking hunter. Like I couldn't hit this broadside of a barn, and so I started training more. I started adding weight. I started investing in my gear. I remember competing with that. I was in a Condor plate carrier. If you know a Condor plate carrier, it's like wearing a freaking raincoat, dude. Yeah. The big side cummerbund and everything else, and so I started investing in my gear. I built an AR. I bought a 1911 that I struggled with through 2021. And it actually cost me a couple podiums. That gun was very frustrating. Even though it went back to the manufacturer twice, they couldn't figure it out. So I shelved it. So going into 2022, which was last year, I really focused on it. I built some new guns. Entered into the 2011 with a staccato, and really started focusing on actual shooting ability. A lot of dry fire and learning. Like I got some classes, did some training with some top tier competitors. Just started to kind of dissect and learn about the sport, and it started to pay off. I started hitting some. I didn't quite podium, but I was consistently placing in top 5, qualifying for national championships. And that's awesome. From there, then I'm like, well, I can do this locally too, right? So I started shooting steel challenges and started shooting. There's a gas gun challenge out at out in Lancaster, IWI Gas Gun Challenge, shot that a couple times. So there's like so much out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like you gotta find it and be willing to sign up and go for it. So that started the whole journey, and it's just gotten crazy from there. So it's good stuff though.
Oh yeah, it's definitely addicting. I've only done very minimal competitive shooting aspects, and I mean, I'm hooked, and I'm not even on your level yet.
No, I'm still learning. I get a lot to learn. So, but every competition you go to, you learn something, and that's the important thing.
That is. Yeah.
People use it as a barrier to entry. They say, "Oh, I'm not ready to go." Like, look, if you can handle a firearm safely, if you understand the fundamentals, if you understand the 4 rules of safety, you can show up to any club and you can compete. You're not going to place first, you're not going to place second, but you get the experience. And with experience is when you start to get better, learn how to hone your craft, learn how to shoot, different ways to shoot, different competitions, things like that.
Yeah, it is really important. I've been to a couple 2-gun, 3-gun competitions locally, and every single one, everyone was so friendly, so welcoming. I mean, the first time I went, I didn't even shoot. I just went to watch. And they were just like, yeah, come on, follow us around. I talked to them all day, hung out with them, exchanged a few numbers, talked to a few of them still to this day. And just everyone was so welcoming. There was no negativity. It was all just positive, positive reinforcement and training each other, teaching each other. So it's a really good community that I'm barely into, but I can see the world that it gives.
Yeah, there's the best way to get involved is to volunteer. I'm actually spending this year just doing nothing but volunteering for tactical games, and the best way to learn about a sport is to volunteer for it. Even your local matches, they always need volunteers. They always need people to help reset targets. They always need help people to, do check-in. They always need help people to do. They probably won't be an RO, but some type of support, team as a volunteer. But you'll learn a ton just being a volunteer, like you said, just being out there, watching what competitors are doing, looking at the gear the guys are showing up with, looking at the strategy, because there's a lot of strategy in shooting sports, how they're going to approach the course of fire, where they want to go fast, where they want to slow down. You get all that from being a volunteer. Sometimes you don't get that when you jump right in and be a competitor. So when you're jumping to be a competitor, you're kind of like, you're focused on your world, right? Like I'm just kind of focused on what I'm going to do. But you don't get the opportunity to see the wide span, except for maybe folks that are in your squad or folks that are in your shooting group. So volunteering is absolutely a great way to learn, and quite honestly to make friends, to meet folks that are shooting competitively full time, to get to know just match directors in general. So they're all great sources of information.
I noticed I got an email about volunteering for Mammoth from the match director, so I'm hopefully going to be.
Yeah, I would totally do that.
Yeah.
You want to learn, go to Mammoth.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. So.
You're ready for some long ass days, though. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. And not as long as the competitors' day, But
that's a fun one.
Yeah, so I know like locally gun clubs, you can join clubs or kind of look on their online websites for. Different nights and shoots and courses of fire that they have, whether it's training or competition. What is that website that you can sign
Practice
up?
Score.
Yeah, Practice Score, PRACTI Score. .com, and that you can basically just make like a free account. And you can just find all the matches and sign up and reserve your tickets if it requires them and stuff.
Yeah, Practice Score is like the match management system. Most organized matches will use Practice Score. They'll use it for registration. They'll use it for scoring. They'll use it for, you have a history in there as well, so you can actually go back and you can actually look at your history. So when I open up my history, I can go all the way back to the first tactical games I ever did. And while the matches aren't the same, you can start to look at, some of your percentages. You can start to look at, in the case of if you have a time and points match, you can look at what some of your times were compared to the winners and things like that. So it's a great, Practice Score actually is a really good resource, and I'm definitely like a Practice Score peeper. Like when I'm not at an event, but I know there's one going on, I'm in there like Saturday night looking at Practice Score, like who's in Masters, who's in Elite. I'm kind of a dork that way, and
that's cool.
So it's a good time. But that's a really good resource to find local matches. You can find local steel matches, 2-gun, 3-gun. Even some of the just like weeknight shoots, you can actually get involved in with practice score too. So.
Yeah, that's what I was told. When I was like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? Everyone was like, oh, practice score, practice. And I was like, oh, okay. Went online, made my little 2-second free account, and it's like, okay, this is where you find everything.
Yeah.
But you can search by like distance and everything.
It's
amazing. So very well put together website.
Yeah.
Whoever made that. Yeah. So you started off as a hunter.
Yep.
COVID hit and you kind of got more into tactical training, tactical games. So you went from tactical games to long range.
Long range, yeah.
So how'd that happen?
So that was a funny one. That went really fast, actually. So competing in tactical games, and then they started a separate series called the Tactical Game Sniper Challenge. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to a Sniper Challenge. So I went to the Ohio Sniper Challenge last October, I think it was, and we were competing out in Ohio, and I got to know one of the guys I was competing against. He was in third, he was in second, I was in third going into day 2, and I'm like, I'm chasing him, and so we kind of we were chasing each other the whole weekend, and we were just we're sitting around after we were all done, and we just got to bullshit. It's like he's got a decal on the back of his truck, or back of his Jeep, that was the rescue that my wife used to work for, a dog rescue. And I'm like, what's that? And he's like, oh, I live in Westchester. He lives 45 minutes away. We meet in Ohio. Damn. And I said, oh, I've always wanted to shoot long range. I'm just kind of getting into it. I've had some success long range hunting, so I'm switching that now to some long range tactical. I said, he's like, oh yeah, I'm used to being an adventure racer and adventure shooter. He's like, he's done them all. He's done Mammoth. He's done sniper challenges out west. He's done just crazy level of experience. And so I said, yeah, it's someday I'd like to shoot Mammoth, and just off the cuff, and we exchange numbers, like you said, keep in touch. He's local. We decided we're gonna shoot together and train together. He calls me 2 weeks later. He's like, yo, dude, my Mammoth partner doesn't want to go. Are you interested? And I'm like, seriously? So I think it was something this is November of last year. And I'm like, yeah, what the hell, why not? I'm in decent shape. We're both struggling with some health issues, but we're in decent shape. Let's just go do it. Let's just go experience it. He had done it 4 or 5 times. So we went down, and it was pretty intimidating. The guys in your squad are showing up with rigs. They got laser rangefinders mounted to their scopes. They got just top end stuff. And you're like, here I am showing up with a 4 to 16 hunting scope on a rifle I built. I'm like, okay. So, but it was for the most part fun. It was hard, So the thing about Mammoth and those kind of adventure sniper challenges or adventure sniper competitions is they're made to grind. So you're grinding for 3 days, almost nonstop. So you're rucking all your gear. I think my pack started at something like 65 pounds on Friday when we busted the line Friday morning, and you're carrying your gear the whole weekend. So every time you go to a stage, you're carrying all your gear, your rifle, your ammo, your food. They do provide water. You don't have to carry water. You got your tent. You've got everything's with you. You're shooting blind stages. I'd never shot a blind stage match before. So, and I'm sure people be like, wait a minute, you've never shot a blind stage match? You go to Mammoth? What the hell's the matter with you? Yeah, I did. So you get the 5-minute safety brief. They give it to you twice, and that's it. You got questions, and you're like, okay. You don't know distances. They give you target shapes or sequence or something similar to that. Occasionally they'll give you the distance, but for the most part it's find target, range target, engage target. Short time windows, 5-minute time caps. So you have to, and again, you're running up to a stage, you got all your gear. So you're running up, you're running up with your pack, and you're dropping your pack, and you're getting your rangefinder out. You're trying to spot targets that could be 1,100 yards away, engaging targets, and then you're racking points. So the whole weekend's all points. The only other challenging part of Mammoth is the ruck times. So you have to maintain a 16-minute per mile pace, which, dude, I'm from a running background. I'm like, what? That's nothing. Come on, 16 minutes per mile? You gotta be kidding me. Well, carrying a 60-pound pack, uneven terrain, sand, hard pan, fields, you name it, over 3 days, and it wears on you. It burns you out. So by Sunday, you're like, you didn't keep up with your calories, you're gonna be hurting. So it's a good time. So we're going back. We're going to go back this year, 2024. Made some adjustments to the setup, a little bit more knowledge. So I'm looking forward to going back now and seeing if we could just do better. We didn't do very well, but it's okay.
But you crossed the finish line?
I did. My partner didn't. So technically, as a team, we didn't finish. He pulled up about a mile short. He got 29 miles into a 30-mile race, and his back let go. But to me, we finished. So I think we're going to do a lot better this year. We get to start training earlier. We only trained for 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's not very long to train for a competition like that. So that's what they call it. The hardest competition, sniper.
One of them.
Yeah.
SAC is the hardest.
Yeah.
SAC out west, Sniper Adventure Challenge is billed as the hardest. And that's 60 miles over 3 days.
Damn.
Navigation, carry your own water. It's fully self-supported. It's billed as the hardest. So maybe one of these days we'll think about doing that one. Gonna tell that to my wife though.
Oh geez, 60 miles, 3 days. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So when you're training, you obviously have two very different shooting style competitions you're involved in. Training between tactical games, more fast speed, to a rucking style competition. How's your training for fast paced versus long range? Like, what's some basic stuff that you do for each one?
Yeah, they're fairly different, right? So tactical games, it's a lot of shorter duration, 12, 15, 24 minute, very, very high intensity. You could be moving a lot of weight. So you're doing a lot more heavy cardio. You're doing a lot more weight training, moving uneven objects, shooting in odd positions behind barricades, a lot of loads and reloads, a lot of making safe. All those things come into play with tactical games. But you might have a long run there too, and you're wearing 15-pound plate carrier. So it's not like you're not wearing anything in tactical games. You've got your rifle, you've got magazines, you've got your pistol, you got magazines, you've got your plate carrier. So you're still 30, 35 pounds in, weight in any given stage. But the major difference between training for tactical games and training for an endurance event is, tactical games there's recovery time in between. It's a 2-day event. You've got time at night to recover, which you have at a place like Mammoth, but you're not staying in a hotel for Mammoth. You're sleeping your ass on the ground, and that's just as much, right? That's just as hard. So when it comes to Mammoth, we're doing a lot of rucking. We'll eventually get to a point where we'll be rucking probably 40, 50 miles a week. I think I'm probably doing 15 or 20 right now. Trying to get the legs ready, trying to get your shoulders ready to just be constant weight. But the other thing is with, an event like Mammoth is you're not shooting at a 160, 170 heart rate. You're not running 5 miles right into a shooting lane and, bullseye shooting from there. So, the major difference between, the long range and, and tactical games is that you're going to do it at resting heart rate. So it really is a lot more positional shooting, but it's going to be at at whatever your resting heart rate is, 60, 70 beats per minute. So it's understanding fundamentals. You're never going to take a 900-yard shot in tactical games. You'll take 900-yard shots all day long in Mammoth. So, understanding ballistics is way different in Mammoth than it's going to be at tactical games, where you may be, probably 450 is going to be your longest shot.
And that's for the sniper tactical game?
No, that's a regular tactical games event. If the range will allow it, if they have long enough bays, you can go to 450. I think is really the longest.
Damn.
But with tactical games too, you're going to be shooting in odd spaces. You could be shooting in a car. You could be shooting top of a mountain or top of a building. You could be dragging your ass, weight up with you to the top of that building and then shooting down or shooting out. So, all those things come into play. And, so there definitely is training. There's a lot of consistency in the cardio, but you really do move a lot more towards the strength and the, and the muscle conditioning in tactical games. Whereas in Mammoth, you're really looking at endurance and you're looking at, long range fundamentals.
Yeah, two very different competitions.
Very different. I would say if you're in shape to compete at a regional event with tactical games, you're probably in shape to run Mammoth.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit more distant stuff in Mammoth or an event like that, but generally if you're in shape for a tactical games event, you can probably pull off Mammoth.
Okay. It's good to know. Write that down. So yeah, you want to go over some basic gear needs? I mean, we have your plate
carriers over there.
Over there, I'll grab that. But we have two beautiful firearms on the table here. 3, some belts, holster setups and stuff. You want me to grab your
Yeah,
picker?
grab picker.
Yeah. This is nice.
Yeah, I mean the fundamental of tactical games is you're going to be in your plate carrier all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so this plate carrier, this is the Cry JPC. It's about the smallest plate carrier that would fit me. This has got ballistic plates in it. Minimum weight is 15 pounds. Weighed in at your check-in, so you got to be at your 15 pounds. Some folks use soft plates like Jackrabbit plates, or others allows a little bit more mobility, a little bit better to breathe. But you know, if I'm on a range with a bunch of other people that I've never seen shoot before, I'm going to stick to the ballistic plates. You know, the one thing is that tactical games is a you know, it's a very safe cold range type of event, but you know, you just never know.
Yeah.
So you just never know. You don't know the experience level of everybody else that's out there. So I stick to the hard ballistic plates.
Yeah, safety first. Yeah.
And you're always 15 pounds. You can't, after weigh in, you can't change your plate carrier after you weigh in. So it's the way it is all the time. You know, some of the other gear we use for tactical games. So you're running a 5.56 or a 2.23 is pretty standard. I do believe that they allow a 300 blackout. I've never seen a 300 blackout at an event. Mostly because of the cost of shooting. You know, you'll shoot 200 or so rounds in a weekend with a 5.56. You don't want to go spend $200 on 300 blackout.
No.
This is a rifle that I built specifically for tactical games. It's actually a local manufacturer, 360 Precision, built the builder set, so the matched upper, lower, and handguard. I assembled everything else. It's got a ballistics advantage barrel. You have to run your muzzle device, has to be a bird cage type muzzle device. There's no compensators allowed, just because if you standing next to a guy with a compensator, you can get, it can mess with you.
Yeah.
And then I finished it off with a Blackhawk adjustable buttstock. I like most guys now are running LPVOs. That's the SIG. It's really an entry level. This is my first one. I was running a Primary Arms 3X Prism reticle for a while. It did fine. I could make hits out to 450 with it, but I did jump into the LPVO this year. That's my entry level, just to kind of get used to it before I really invest in something like a Razor. The other thing that you'll run in tactical games is you're going to run the sidearm. This is Staccato XL. This is in a holster by a buddy of mine at customizedholsters.com. Staccatos in 2011 really are becoming the standard. You still see Glocks, you still see CZs, you'll see a bunch of manufacturers out there, but the 2011 is really the dominant firearm in tactical games now. It's going to change a little bit because of the allowance of red dots. Up until this past year, it was iron sights only. Now red dots are allowed in every division except for elite, so you are starting to see Glocks come back in. You're starting to see smaller frame polymer pistols come back in because of the red dots. Personally, I like the XL. It's more weight. It's it's a bigger sight radius. It's good for irons, but I'm not going to get the thing milled because I don't want to wreck the slide for a red dot. So I'll be at a disadvantage, but you gotta. It just means you gotta practice more.
Shoot what you got.
Shoot what you got. So, for long range stuff, this is a rifle that I assembled. It's a 308 Winchester. So for Mammoth, your primary shooter has to be either 308 Winchester or 5.56 223. Secondary shooter can be pretty much any non-magnum caliber beyond that. My partner runs 5.56, and he may bring something new to the table this year for that. Long range is all about what you can see and how you can hit it. Mm-hmm. So this is a rifle. It runs about a 0.3 MOA accuracy. It's got a 20-inch ballistics advantage barrel. It's an Aero Precision upper. It's a custom lower that I had made, and then I finished off. It's got some Magpul furniture on it. It's topped with a Vortex 6-24 optic on top. Also, when you're shooting out 800, 900, 1,000 yards, you really need a one-piece mount that's got an MOA adjustment, and this is a Warren one piece with a 20 MOA adjustment. That allows correction factors to be less once you're really stretching it out. If you're shooting one MOA at a place like Mammoth, you're probably missing the target. So when you look at some of the PRS shooters in F class, they're looking for 0.25 and less. I personally think you really need to be in that 0.5, no more than about 0.5 MOA accuracy if you're at 1,000 yards, .5 is 5 inches, or 50 inches. You can miss by a mile.
Yeah.
So, it's you need accuracy out there. The other thing that I've gotten both rifles, which I really love, another local manufacturer is the Geisley. These are both 2-stage match triggers, SSAE. I love them. It's a 3.5 pound total, 2.5 pound first stage, 1 pound second stage. You can pretty much just sit on your target, and then when you're ready for that rifle to go off, it's just a light squeeze and the gun goes off. So all important. The big difference between these two, obviously not just caliber and size, but is weight. An event like Mammoth, you have to balance. You don't want a 20-pound rifle because you're going to be carrying that thing for 30 miles over 3 days. But you don't want an 8-pound rifle because you need something heavy enough to stabilize you when you're taking shot after shot after shot, 800-900 yards out. So this one's about 12 pounds empty, which I feel like is a good weight. When you start stacking on that I got 150 rounds of 308 Winchester in my pack,
that weighs
it's 13 pounds of ammo alone. So, taking a couple pounds off here, and I added by upgrading from the 4 to 16 to the 6 to 24, I actually added a little bit of weight with the new scope. But you know what, you got to be able to see the targets to hit them. So
let's check out this holster a little bit with your sidearm.
Yeah, so you got this is a typical battle holster. I run 3 mags, 3 pistol mags and 3 rifle mags. This is my standard tactical game setup. It's a hooded holster for security, so that you can't run the risk. Any competition will DQ you if you lose control of your sidearm. So I run a hooded. Some guys will run the thumb release. Some guys will run a more passive restraints. To me, I'm a big fan. I know that I can just run up and drop this, and then have the sidearm out pretty quick. Got a little bit of constitutional writing on there, so you can't complain about that.
Oh, no.
This is made by former military active LEO. Friend of mine does really great work. I bought a number of holsters off of him, so I like keeping in the community. He's also a competitor in tactical games, so I like supporting those businesses that support the organizations that I like to compete in.
And what was the company of this again?
So this is CT Customs. The website's customizedholsters.com.
Okay.
And he'll do molds for just about any holster for any gun on the market. So great stuff. Durable as hell.
It looks really nice. So you were talking about Mammoth firearms versus your 3-gun firearms. So you're allowed to use gas gun in Mammoth. It doesn't have to be bolt.
Nope.
A lot more gas guns now than bolt.
It's probably a mix. I'd say probably the top competitors are running bolt guns. They're inherently more accurate than a gas gun is. So a lot of the top tier competitors are bringing out some really nice bolt actions. I'm a fan of the gas gun, so I like being able to wrench off shot after shot after shot.
Oh yeah. Now you're saying in the tactical games it has to be a bird cage.
Yeah.
Now in Mammoth it doesn't.
No, so you can see that I got a hybrid on here. I got a compensator on here for the Mammoth gun. So this has got ports out the top, helps with muzzle flip. Keeps the gun down. Whereas you've got an A2 bird cage. You've got an A2 bird cage here, so that you're not blowing out your neighbor's eardrums.
Yeah.
As you're standing on line. And that's another big difference between the two is in tactical games you're going to be lined up on the line. You're going to have typically 5 lanes. You're going to have 5 guys within probably 10 feet of each other. 10 feet between each of them. Mammoth, there's only one. It's only you and your teammate in the pit at the same time. So there is a pretty significant difference there.
A lot of people running suppressors in Mammoth? Or
Yeah,
not?
quite a few actually. My partner does. My partner runs a CAC or something similar to that. I'd say probably half the teams are running suppressors.
You're still running supersonic ammo though through it.
Oh yeah.
You need to with that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to. You're not gonna shoot out that distance running subsonic ammo.
So if someone hopped on practice score, just maybe had a couple bucks in their pocket and wanted to get into it, average hunter. Average safe, a couple AR-15s, couple handguns. What would be some entry-level gear that you think that they could invest in to get started with? Maybe not.
I'd shoot what you got.
Yeah,
run what you're wrong. Yeah, whatever you're familiar with. You know, I mean, as long as it fits within the rules, right? You know, bring what you're familiar with. Bring things that you have experience handling. Don't go out and buy, you know, thousands of dollars worth of gear before you ever hit your first competition, because you may be like, this sucks. You know, I can't tell you how many guys walk away from tactical games. I mean, they'll get through day one, they ain't come back for day two, because they can't handle it. They're not ready for it. They thought it was great. You know, it's a shooting competition, yes, and you got to be able to shoot well to do well, but there's a pretty big fitness component too. And if you're not ready for it, if you haven't watched the videos and you haven't seen it and understand it, you know, it'll blindside you. Yeah. So, you know, to me, it's run what you brung. We used to say that in our street racing days. You know, get some familiarity under your belt, figure out what works for you, and then start to invest in your equipment based upon what works for you. You know, not everybody likes to run the XL. It's a big gun. Not everybody likes to. I used to run a 10.5 inch. I had a 10.5 inch I ran, you know, up until this year on the AR side. And not everybody likes to run a 10.5 inch gun. I could hit any target out to 400 yards with it, so I was fine with it. But some guys, they like the velocity of the 16 inch. You know, they're cool with that. So, and it's all about preference. But you know, if you're gonna get started with it, you know, go to a local match or even sign up for a regional tactical games event and show up. You know, read the rules, understand what the requirements are. Don't show up with a freaking compensator, because we're going to make you take it off every single time. You know, but understand what the rules are, and then just jump into the ring and go. You know, make sure you bring your safety. You know, make sure you bring your understanding of firearms handling, and you know, other than that, go to your first event, learn what the sport's about. You know, it could even be your local steel challenge, and just understand what it's about. Then you can start to figure out where to go from there.
Yeah, I think personally, starting to learn about, you know, 2-gun, 3-gun, and seeing tactical games online, I think going to local ranges and seeing, you know, local clubs and seeing the competitions was a major groundbreak for me. Yeah. Seeing how it was done and what's expected, and just little things, you know, how to, you know, you have your clearing table off to the side typically, you know, stuff like that. The little carts that people tote around and stuff.
If you want to invest in something, invest in a cart.
Yeah.
So
I'm in the middle of
carrying all your gear.
I'm in the middle of building my second one. So the first one I gave to these guys to use around the shop. But any insider info you can share about upcoming events, maybe the tactical games, maybe Mammoth?
Nothing on Mammoth. They keep it pretty tight to the vest. You know, we just got registered. Everybody's starting to really kind of train. You're starting to see some of the social media. You know, the training's picking up by competitors. Most guys don't ever stop training, which I agree with. You know, from a tactical games perspective, you know, the sport's still evolving and still growing. So it's under new ownership this year. Nick is doing a great job. You know, Jared shepherded it along for a couple of years and really grew it, really brought it into the national spotlight. You know, Nick's taken over the reins, and I think Nick's doing a great job. I was in New Hampshire in June, I think it was, as an RO, and then I'm looking to go to the national championship as an RO in November down in Texas. But you know, that sport it's still evolving. They've brought some really big names in. They've got a partnership with Under Armour now as their title sponsor. You know, Night Force is there. So, and I'm not trying to name drop. What I'm trying to do is just show you the level of attention that is being brought on to the sport. You know, they're really the groundbreaking part of the sport. You know, there's some other smaller series. They're probably fine. I don't do those events really in the Southeast, but you know, I'm a big fan of the stress fire, stress strategy. You know, got to figure it out as you go, and you know, sometimes when stuff happens, you got to figure something else out. You know, your gun may jam, you may end up with a bunch of dirt in it, or you know, target acquisition, all that kind of stuff. So there's not really I think that this year's national championship is going to be pretty damn cool. It's going to be at the Staccato Ranch, which I'm really looking forward to going to. Staccato is one of the sponsors, but I can only imagine what their place looks like down in Texas.
Oh, jeez. That would be awesome to go see. Maybe I have to sign up and go RO for that.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Sign up to be a volunteer.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely want to get more involved volunteering with things. Was there anything else that you wanted to say about whether it's personal training for your events, maybe kind of was that the 2011 that you really favor a lot there. Any kind of special guns, gear, anything that you think really edged you, gave you like a little edge or anything, helped you out?
Well, yeah. I mean, buying a quality handgun like the Staccato, up from my previous 1911 was a game changer.
So you said you were running a Glock 23 when you first got into your competition shooting, and then moved to a 1911.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that transition of the handguns. I feel like that's a little bit overlooked when we talk about rifle sports.
Yeah, I mean, a Glock is not really made. A Glock 23 is not made for accuracy. I mean, they're EDC. They're made for stopping stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're holding 3-4 inches out of a 3.5-inch barrel, you're having a good day. So I was in a local gun store, and they had a 1911 and 10 millimeter, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take it. So I bought that, competed in 2021 with that, and I think pretty much every picture that I have from Row at Tactical Games is me trying to clear a jam on that gun, because the 1911 and the 10 millimeter platform, they don't like each other.
Mm-hmm.
It kept stovepiping, and there was it was in the running for a podium in New Hampshire in 2021, and there's a picture of me standing on the line trying to clear a jam. It had gotten dirt in it, and the thing all jammed up, and it was all she wrote. So,
damn.
And I decided that in 2022, I was going to get more serious about Tactical Games, even more so than I was in 2021. So I bought an XL. Went to I knew I was going to buy it, so I didn't even need to go shoot it. I just went and bought it at a local range. There's a dealer around here that sells Staccatos.
Did you shoot one prior?
Nah,
no.
Didn't need to. It's just, I mean, most everybody I knew at the time that was competing with either a Staccato or the previous STI. So I trusted the quality. It was between that, and the next level up, the Atlas. But for the $1,500 difference between the XL and the Atlas, I could buy a lot of ammo and I could practice a lot. So I stuck with the XL. And I mean, it's stepping from either a non-competition pistol or an unreliable pistol into something that is reliable and accurate as hell, it makes a huge difference. Tactical Games is about time and points, so you got to make your hits, and you got to make your hits when you got 180 heart rate. You got to be able to slow down and make sure your sight picture is good, but you got to rely that when that gun goes off, that it's going to hit where your sight picture showed it was. You're shooting pretty small targets at 7, 10, 15 yards, breathing heavy, sucking wind. You could be holding something. You could be support hand or strong hand, single hand. You got to have a reliable firearm. Competitions can be won or lost with either an inaccurate or an unreliable firearm, which I've seen both of. So I jumped into the Staccato. There's a number of other manufacturers jumped in. I said Atlas is involved. You got guys running Infinities out there. Those are really high end pistols. You do have Glocks coming in. Glock actually is now sponsoring one of the elite competitors. So it's possible Glock's going to try to make a run, into the sport. You get CZ, you get FN, you get some other ones as well, but dominating it right now are full size 2011s. Mostly Staccato with Atlas, probably a close second. So,
yeah, they're definitely. I've seen a few of them. Working at the range for a few years, I've seen a few of them come in and out, and they shoot.
They don't need a whole lot.
Yeah.
They don't. You're definitely not going to jump into a Staccato like you would a Glock and start messing with the trigger or swapping barrels or something like that. I mean, they come pretty factory tuned. Plus, they're made in Texas, so. Can't complain about a full U.S.
They're meant
pistol
for
either.
High-end competitions.
Well, first and foremost, they're made for the P's and the C series are made to support LEO. They're made to support law enforcement. Their tagline is built for heroes. A bunch of the guys that I compete against that are LEOs, they all carry Staccatos. They carry P's, when they're on duty, and then they flip up to an XL or something similar when they're in competition, whether it's red dot or not. So. They have a very strong, they're in hundreds of departments use their P line as their standard carry. So They definitely have a very strong presence both in the law enforcement community, but also, yeah, of course, in the tactical and just competitive shooting.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of the pictures online of the tactical games, and that was probably 80% of the guns on people's side. So
yeah, when I first started competing, you'd see maybe a couple staccato show up, and then within like 2 years, it flipped from a couple to the majority. And there are some stats floating around. You started seeing the stats real early on that most of the folks that were podiuming were bringing higher end weapons to the table. They were bringing Sons of Liberty Gunworks, they were bringing DD rifles, they're bringing staccatos, they're bringing Atlases or something similar to that. I mean, it was a very stark difference. So I think, and once some of these manufacturers really started to take an interest, and they started showing up to events, and they started bringing guns that could be tested, could be shot, at events. They really started to invest their time into the sport. So
yeah, got to get that customer base.
Yeah, they got a pretty good one now too.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate your time and finally getting together here. It means a lot to me and the channel. I really appreciate it, and bringing in all your gear, equipment, firearms, some accessories. Really, really appreciate this.
Oh, good. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy.